My name is Amber Garcia, and I'm the Executive Director at Women's Voices for the Earth.
And I'm Alexandra Scranton. I'm the Director of Science and Research here at Women's Voices for the Earth.
We've is our acronym. That's what we call Women's Voices for short. It's a national environmental health organization, and we work to eliminate toxic chemical exposure through a number of ways, right? Some policy advocacy, targeted corporate campaigns, education, and most recently, youth leadership development and community organizing. We believe that everybody deserves to live in a healthy and a safe environment. So that environment includes where you live, where you work, where you play, and where you pray. So we are committed to working for justice and equity, and have found that our work over the past few years has really been focused there. So we've actually was founded 25 years ago in Missoula, Montana, and started off as a state-based organization, and then I think just in about 2014, 2015 became a national organization that does work in multiple states. And we really focus on products that women and people who use them, for example, in period care products, intimate care products, cleaning supply products, and salon and cosmetic care products.
Yeah, I was there at the very beginning of Coming Clean, which is kind of neat. I was actually originally hired at Women's Voices for the Earth because we had funding to organize Coming Clean. So I was, with Brian Yishwan, who's the executive director at the time, and we kind of, put together this, loose coalition of groups around the trade secrets documentary, Bill Moyer's documentary. And the funny thing about it was we were getting all these groups to sign on to agree to do showings of this movie, but the actual film was still kind of under wraps and top secret. So we had never seen the film. We just had believed in Bill Moyers and believed it was going to be a good film. But convincing people you have to show this film, even though we'd never actually seen it, which was kind of a fun thing to do. There was such a diversity of different kind of groups working on this, who were all kind of working overall to create a world without toxic chemicals. Was kind of the loose theme between the different groups. And so once we did the movie, suddenly it was like, okay, well, what do we do now? Like, we brought all these people together and we see there's a lot of synergy here. And I think one of the really strong things that became really immediately obvious, I was, the first one to kind of create the list, the Coming Clean listserv. That was one of the outcomes, was to create this listserv where people who had given these film showings could then communicate and share information. And the power, listservs were fairly new, I think, at the time. This was 2001, so it's really a while back, but it was just that power of being able to connect across the country sort of immediately, and things would happen in the world and you're like, is this a big deal? Is this not a big deal? And what do other people think? And immediately you had access to all these different minds working on these issues. So that's definitely something I think I'm very proud of. Coming Clean still exists 2 decades later. And the listserv is still this major source of information where people can share information and learn from each other. There's two things that I've really learned. One is the power of collaboration. No one organization can take on every issue out there. So knowing that there are other organizations who have more expertise and have more ability to do certain things and have different skill sets. Knowing that you can collaborate with other groups and get work done together, because nobody can do it all, and different people really bring a lot to the table. So it's whether it's coming from a different experience, coming from a different lived experience, coming from a different skill set, whether it's legal abilities or permits or whatever the expertise is, being able to bring those things together to work collaboratively is incredibly important in getting the work done. The second thing that I think I learned very early on, and what I enjoyed, I haven't been to a Come and Clean meeting in a really long time, but when I went to certainly the earlier meetings, was the importance of laughter and fun and sort of good relationships between people. We did one annual meeting, this is at least 15 years ago, in New Orleans. And just as it happens in New Orleans, there's multiple places where you can buy feather boas. And so there were a number of us who had bought feather boas just sort of for kicks. And so the next day, look, in our very serious strategy meetings, there was a bunch of us wearing feather boas. It really made it so much fun. And even though we were talking about such serious and impactful work, being able to sort of have some fun with it too, really, I realized how important that was, to be able to make the work sustainable.
Well, I think right now it's a pretty big year for us, actually. We just released a big report that has been, I think, probably a decade in the making, Beyond the Label, and talking about ingredients in cleaning supply products. And we had a big win in California on the Cleaning Products Right to Know Act back in 2017, and finally starting to see some of these manufacturers listing the actual ingredients in their products and helping us to take a look at that and share out with our membership, with our partners, with people who work with these cleaning supply products on a daily basis, share out with them the health impacts of the exposure to some of the chemicals that are in the products. We've been riding that wave and just really celebrating the work that we've done. And all of that work, it doesn't happen inside of a vacuum. The opportunity we have now, while we are still living through the effects of a global pandemic, we have seen increased awareness and people really being receptive to the information that we're sharing out, specifically as an organization. While WEAVE has traditionally occupied the environmental health space, we are, really branching out and trying to connect at the intersections of different issues that impact people's lives, that are connected with toxic chemical exposure, but hadn't traditionally been necessarily talked about in connection to each other. For example, folks who are at the fence line, these people who are living in these areas that are close to toxic waste facilities, and are not necessarily thinking about the chemical exposure because they also don't have access to quality and affordable food. And I think being part of the Come and Clean network really helps us to look at all of those issues and talk about and strategize how they're interconnected and find solutions. And so that's something we're really excited about in our work moving forward, really engaging with younger generations of folks. For WEAVE in our unique space in the movement or in the field, have these topics have been traditionally really science and data heavy. And so there's a good opportunity right now to make a lot of that information accessible to younger folks and to people who are, disproportionately impacted, who are most overburdened by toxic chemical exposure. Right now we're actually recruiting for a few fellowship positions that will be, working with young folks on in the fall. So they'll be helping to support some of the work in different places: California, New York, Colorado, And we would love to, share that out, work with other young people who are interested in a part of, maybe our partners' work. I think it's a really good opportunity for us to be, building leaders, investing in leadership so that we can make sure that the work is sustainable, as we know, because it is, like you said, it can be really high stakes work, and none of us can do it forever.
I mean, one of the things that we've been, we work on toxic chemicals in consumer products a lot of the time. And I do the research finding out what these, long, difficult chemical names are and what they're doing to our health. And, to some degree, you need to be somewhat sophisticated about knowing what these chemicals are in order to be able to avoid them. Our vision is that you won't have to do that, that these products will be made inherently safer, and we won't be having to check labels for dangerous chemicals, because they just won't be there, because that's, the way we'll be designing products in the future, will be to make sure that they're inherently safe before they ever go on the market. So I think that's one kind of vision that we would like to see. And I think the work that we've been doing over the years, we'll point out certain chemicals here and there. We've also been working with manufacturers of companies to explain to them, like, this is how you have to be thinking about the way you make products. And these are some of the considerations. It's not just, can I do a risk assessment on this chemical and it comes out okay, but who is using my product and what else are they being exposed to? And what are the other, considerations in their life that are affecting their health? And how is my product adding to that? And how can I make it better? So I think we've having, a voice in getting that kind of, systems thinking difference in the way products are designed is something I'd like to see.